Welcome to the Conscious Investor. Let's get started. Identity will change how you show up in the world. And today I am joined by a really close friend of mine, someone that I am so grateful to call friend. I'm able to call my podcast producer, and we've had other experiences as well. So in my small town, it's rare that I can collaborate in this capacity, and it's such a blessing. And the collaboration between Natalie and I actually began many years ago. And so I think we should just dip into, you and I both went through some identity shifts when we launched a robotics program that was going to serve our children and all the children in our community, and took them to the world championship and show their first year. So
crazy.
It is crazy. And so that was the first time when I just saw this whole different side of you, where I'm like, oh, I need a coach. Like, we have to have two people who can do this with me. And I taught your daughters, and I'm thinking Natalie would be great. And you were hesitant, but then you said yes. And so there's this cool balance, where it's like, hey, let's go try this. And then it's the hesitant yes. And then this just flourish being amazing things. So I don't know if I want to spend too much time talking about that. Everyone knows I just jump into the conversation, but why don't we talk about how your identity has expanded over the years?
Oh my goodness, that's a big question. My identity has changed multiple times, all the way from the first time I moved out all the way up until, divorce and everything. When I was at that point, when we first met, you were teaching my kids, I was at a phase of my life where I was searching for an identity. And I think you seeing something within me helped me kind of have that little back of the mind, maybe there's something there. Maybe I'm more than what I think I am. And growing from that, and the experience with robotics, and building up that confidence of being able to take a giant group, I guess I can't say giant, but it was a pretty good sized group all the way to Texas and back. That's a confidence builder in its own when you do that successfully and come back and everybody had a wonderful trip.
That was amazing. And for those of you who don't know, it's we live on the Canadian border. So taking, 8 and 9-year-olds, on many of them on their very first flight down to the lower portion, to the very bottom tip of Texas, Houston, Texas, right? That's a big journey. And we were able to get that trip fully funded with a parent chaperoning their own child across the way. And we really had to rally and work hard, and it brought out this whole different level. And I watched you go from, I don't know that I'm a leader, to, okay, I've got this. And then this continual evolution taking place in your life. So you want to elaborate any more on just how, what gave you the courage to change, to step, to morph? Because you did this from elementary school to middle school to high school to across the segments of life, the timeline. You have consistently evolved and said, oh, I'm going to go into this direction.
It took somebody seeing it within me for me to see it. You saw something within me that I never saw, but having somebody there that says, hey, do you realize that you're doing this? Do you know that you are being a leader right now? It took me by surprise. It took me back. And I remember going home multiple times going, wow, am I really being a leader? Am I really helping out with a coach? And to have somebody there to point it out to me, and then not only to point it out, but to also pave the way. I can tell you, I followed in your footsteps in a big way. But it helped a lot because I saw how you were doing it, and then I slowly modeled, that, or you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying. What's interesting is that I think with every good, friendship and partnership is that there's always the give and take. And whereas one person thinks like, oh, I'm looking to you, and people know I have a brand Sherpa and a financial Sherpa, like I have these role models in life. I'm always looking for role models, but those role models actually gain from me as well, which is really hard for me to imagine, but I gained from you as well. Like it leveled me up all at the same time. It's this really cool thing that takes place. Fast forward, we get into a pandemic, and both of us decide, we're going to just keep our kids at home. And I have this podcast that I decided I made a commitment for 1 year. I am going to edit the podcast myself. I want to understand how to do this and to be capable of doing it. And so I was coming up to that year mark, and I'm thinking, I would love to help out. I'd love to keep business within America to serve fellow Americans. And I would love to help and collaborate moms that want to stay at home with their kids. And I reach out to you. I'm thinking, who could do this? Who could I trust? Who's dependable? Who's reliable? Who do I know loves to learn and shows up with excellence? And like your name is like a neon light in my head. And so I remember reaching out to you saying, hey, I have this really neat concept. It's kind of like robotics. You want to go down the like little path and see where it opens? And I remember sitting, our kids were playing, we're hanging out, at my house on the deck for a little bit before it got too cold, and talking about this concept, showing you what does it look like to edit. And again, you had that awesome hesitant yes. And I mean that as a compliment, like hesitant yes, right? Like, because I think sometimes people are like, heck yeah, count me in. And then they fizzle out really fast. But you're like, yes, let me explore this. So again, where did that courage come from?
I think that's just a courage that I've always had within, but it takes the right people to pull that out of you. If you have the wrong people around you, that hesitant yes turns into a very hesitant no.
And I'll even say it turns into a hell no.
Yep. But when you have those people that are going to, that, like you asked me to be a part of this, and you're a very supportive person, a caring person, and you're understanding of the learning curve, and so that hesitant yes was like, this, I could see how this, and I always take that hesitant moment to really like, how do I feel about this decision? And I try to always look at the whole picture before I say yes, because you just never know. But when I said yes, it fit. I've always been creative, and I was, like you said, I was at home with my kids, and I needed an outlet. I needed something. And when you had asked me to be a part of it, it was like, ooh, okay. Yes. Can I check this out first? And then as you slowly, like, as you introduced it to me and I started doing more and more research, it just seemed to fit. And then I got more ideas, and then more ideas. And next thing I knew, I was a business.
We're editing multiple podcasts because
Yep. Editing multiple podcasts and helping beginner podcast launch. Like that's a incredible experience to be a part of, to help people take their ideas, put them out there, and then make them bright.
And you have such a great way of making everybody shine. Hence light bulb. So, here's one of the interesting things that I saw was I had to rein in my own vision. You know that I have to expand ideas out, and I can see like all the, hey, we're going all the way out, like we're going out to Pluto, even though it's not a planet. We're like I just go really, really big. And I would have loved to build out. And I told you, maybe we create a company together. Maybe we do this. I had all these ideas. And now you're taking that idea. And I'm mentioning this because, like, sometimes we're not the person that's intended to execute on an idea, but we're the person that just carries the idea and shares that idea that allows somebody else to take that idea forward. I don't have time, capacity, and things like that to have multiple businesses and to run them well at this point. And so at some point, maybe, but really to do something well, you have to be really focused and or have the resources to hire everybody out. Now you're taking this concept, which is, hey, how do we help moms? And you're growing and expanding Lightbulb podcast editing. Tell me about the story behind that, the vision.
Well, I want to go back to about when this started. Well,
Sure.
no, not that far back. So I want to say probably around October of last year, I actually got offered a kind of a part-time job. And at that point, I wanted to grow Lightbulb, but I wasn't confident. I didn't have that inner confidence. I wasn't sure if I could handle it. So I took the part-time job, and it was an incredible experience, and I still go up there. But it helped solidify my direction because it gave me another opportunity to, it's almost like that shiny object syndrome. You know, we're like, oh, I'm on this path, but what's this? You know, and so I went that way. But in that process, I discovered that no, that's not where I want to be. I want to go down this path. And, you know, that path is Lightbulb, because it became not just about me. I started seeing little posts on Facebook from my other stay-at-home moms that were, does anybody have any leads on, you know, some remote work? Does anybody have any, I'm trying to find, you know, there's too many scams out there, et cetera, et cetera. And at that point, you know, I reached out to one of my friends and I said, hey, would you be interested? And yes, definitely interested. And in that conversation that I had with her, it was really like, there's so many scams out there. It's too hard to get remote work. You know, if you don't know your way around on Upwork or Fiverr or however you pronounce that, you know,
Fiverr, all the
Fiverr. Yeah, it's so challenging. I was there before I started podcasting, and it just really, something clicked that was like, why is this so hard? If we're in a world that we are supposed to be learning how to remote work, how to remote school, how to remote whatever, why is it so hard? So then I just had that idea of I want to create something to where stay-at-home parents don't have to, you know, it's not so hard to get that job to support their family, you know. And so I've stepped up my game a bit, and I am growing so crazy right now. I don't even know, but it's the growth in itself is just, it's fun, it's exciting, it's scary, but I just have this vision of helping out other parents who are in my situation or in my friend's situation, to be able to provide for their kids.
It's such an amazing opportunity. I want to go back, you know, and obviously we won't mention names, locations, and things like that, but it was so scary for me when you took on this part-time job. You're like, I'm just going to go help out. And truly it was, I'm going to help out because they just need this help. And it's people that, you know, you're close to. And so it's like, okay, I'm capable. I can go in and help out. And not only you showed up as Natalie always shows up, not only did you show up and help out, but you showed up and kicked butt. You're like, you know, the person you're working for just like blown away. And here she is speaking all of these positive things into you. I've tried to train assistants to do this, and they don't get to where you're at for months, and you've been here for a day. You know, it's like, it's wild when you think about, like, for me, it was scary. I'm like, oh man, I know that she could build out this company and it's needed and it's amazing, but oh no, I guess maybe she might be stepping back from it. Oh no. And so I went through that nervousness, but then also just open hand, everything works out, all things work out. As I've said on a recent mindset episode, all things work out. And I was telling myself that back, last fall, like, all things work out, it's going to be okay. And Natalie has to choose the path and walk the path that unfolds before her. Julie, like, don't just let somebody figure it out. But I don't know if you know how terrifying that was for me, because I'm like, no, I see where she could go with this. This is amazing. It's such a bummer. And then you had this like significant realization. And it was that pivotal moment. And I think a lot of people will relate to this, but not everybody has the strength to double down on their dream and their vision and their mission, because they would choose the security and the fear. So can you tell us a little bit about that fork in the road moment of like, oh, wait, what am I doing?
Yeah. So I want to kind of step back just a minute. I want to go back to beginning of 2021. You invited me to be a part of your book club, and it was High Performance Habits. Life had definitely taken a turn. I was at home. I was, pandemic hit. And this is a very common story for so many of us right now. But you invited me to be a part of High Performance Habits book club. Your first book, I'm really not going to turn this into a book club that is now a full-blown book club. And I remember our first meeting. I was talk about imposter syndrome. I never even heard of imposter syndrome at that point. But I felt so small. When we first got on, I felt, why am I here? I shouldn't be a part of this. But with that book, I started stepping up, and I had to make that choice in my head of, I want to change. I want something better. I have been floating around in my life trying to find these different, better versions of myself for so long. It's time. And so then I started making little challenges for myself at this book club, and they were once a week. So it was easy. It was easy to do a little challenge. So the next one, it was, I'm going to talk. And as simple, as silly as that sounds, but when you're in a group of people that you basically don't know, to speak up and speak your mind and to say what you're feeling, that's hard. And boy, was it hard. But I spoke up, and then I started talking even more. And then I remember it was like, I want to say it was close to the end. I actually told myself, okay, try not to speak so much in this one. But because of that book club and because of those little things that I started to put myself out there, I found a confidence within myself that helped me make these choices of, okay, I want something better. How do you find, how do you find your dream when you have no idea what your dream is? Right. So I just really opened it up as much as I could. And then you asked me to do that. Okay, let's try this. And it just pieces started falling together because I was open. And I had made that choice to be open. And it's not like, okay, today I make that choice and in the next 6 months, something will happen. It is a daily choice, and because of those little tiny practices that I started 2021, here we are 2022, and my choice, the choices I make, I'm still making those choices of say yes to going on a podcast, say yes to expanding, and that courage that I had to choose between going this way or that way. It really took me a moment. I had to sit back, and I can't even say it was a moment. It was a couple of months. And
I know, I felt it.
I really had to see every perspective of the whole situation. I had a huge opportunity, huge. But when I really sat down and looked at every perspective, it just didn't fit me. And thankfully, I have an amazing man in my life that because of him, I am able to say, hey, I have this really cool dream and we can do this. Like, I know I can do this. And he believes in me. And I have people around me that believe in me. And I'll never forget the day, the moment when I came in and I sat down with him and I said, okay. And we've had this conversation, you and me, but it was a sit down conversation. And I really had to see the perspective. I had to see the moment, the feeling, everything that went into it. And it was like, okay, I'm going to quit podcasting. I'm going to go here permanently. And the weight that we both felt on ourselves really just, it was not a good weight. You know, it was, oh, are we really going to commit ourselves to this life? So then I stepped back and I did the exact same thing, but opposite. I said, hey, what if I just really focused on light bulb and I built it and I make it everything that I feel it can be? And you literally could feel this excitement lift in the room. And it was like, ooh, you get all excited and it's like, oh my goodness. Okay. How do you deny that moment? And so when we, you know, when you look at that and those feelings and everything go into it, I mean, you have to go with what feels right. It's scary. I mean, it's scary because you never know what can happen. But at the same time, you never know what could happen up there either. You know, I mean, you got to choose your scary, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's uncertainty. No matter what, life is full of uncertainty. And so we somehow think that if we are working for someone else, that there's more security in that. And it's no, actually, there's maybe far less security in that situation than when you have your own company. But there is that significant learning curve. I know when I founded Three Keys Investments, I was not anticipating, I didn't realize I was starting a business. I just thought I was going to support people and help them out. And, and then it turns into this, oh, wait, I have a full-fledged business and, this is far more, requires far more than I realized. Now you have a really big vision for Light Bulb, and I rally behind it and I love it. And I'm so excited for it. What is it that you are, what's the dream behind it?
So my dream for Light Bulb is, it's kind of like a multi-aspect business. For one, for my clients, I want to bring light to their ideas that build growth. That's my tagline. But I want to be able to give my client that ability to record the podcast, give it to me, and we'll take care of the rest. And with that, I'm talking everything: social media managing, emails, transcriptioning. Like, I've got a list. And
which you already do. You do that, just so like people are clear, like Natalie and her team do those things right now for my podcast. I would be lost without it.
Yes. But there's more. I mean, the more that I dig into like what is podcasting, the more that I see that I can offer to my clients. Now, shifting gears to my employees, I want to be able, and I touched base on this I want to be able to give stay-at-home parents the opportunity to provide for their families. But make it easy to where it's not, they don't have to worry about the scam. They don't have to worry about oh, I need to have this much money to get started. No, I want to be able to have all of that for them. Hey, you get in touch with me, you want a job? Okay, let's, and I have like, the idea of how I'm going to train and, all that stuff. And it is such a work in progress, but it's big. And in my head, it's big. It's not just podcast editing, it's podcast production and everything that goes along with it. I want to be able to connect clients and employees that are the right fit so that my employee not only thinks of this as a job, but as a reflection of themselves. I take my job personally. If I'm not putting out good content, I need to fix that. If I make a mistake, I'm straight up front. Hey, I made a mistake, but I fixed it.
Yep. We've both made mistakes, and that's how we both handle it. That was one reason why I knew. I'm like, I know if I go to Natalie, I know that if something were to go sideways, and that's always, even my investors ask me that, like, what if something goes sideways? It's like, what's somebody's character? How are they going to show up? If something happens, and that matters significantly, absolutely significantly. So somebody's listening right now, and they're at that fork in the road moment. When you're at the fork in the road moment, because the joy, the satisfaction, the peace, whatever good things you were feeling when you were going into one setting, it shifts, and it becomes like, I've experienced this every time I've made any transition in life. It's one thing that was super amazing is now, like, I'm not, like, this very aware feeling of, I'm not supposed to be here. This isn't for me. I need to make this transition. But that courage and confidence, why don't we give some final advice to those people?
It's scary and it's hard to make that choice. But if it is what feels right in here and up here, and you have weighed all the options and looked at everything, and you really just want to go after it, take the step. It's small steps. I did not jump head first into podcast editing. And even when I had multiple when Julie was constantly like, hey, I got this person, it was like, hold on. And I allowed myself that, saying, hey, I want to grow, but I need to grow at my pace. And that's okay too. You don't need to grow at anybody else's pace but your own. The courage to do it, it's in you. It really is in you. Just take that first step. Yeah, just follow it. And it really is about making choices every day. Whether it's simple choices of, I'm not going to drink coffee, ha ha ha. but it's just like that. It really is like just a simple, okay, today I'm going to do this. Tomorrow I'm going to do this. And in each little step that you accomplish and that you can accomplish, that helps to build that courage, that helps to build that growth, and it helps lead you into your path and into your dreams.
I love that. Absolutely love that. How would you say, I have a follow-up question, because I know that you and I have really grown through reading, and I'd just love to hear like how reading has impacted your life, your journey.
Oh my goodness. Prior to the book club, I thought self-help books were a joke. I was like, no. And then if someone would have told me 5 years ago, oh yeah, one of your favorite things to do is be a part of a book club, I would have laughed at them. Like, yeah, right, that's not me. But bringing that part into my life they're not even like self-help books. They're like self-realization books.
That's such a better way of putting that.
because it really helps you put pieces together that, like, if there's something that doesn't quite make sense, well, in a lot of these books, there's certain things that they say that in a different way that really helps you, like, go, oh, light bulb. And one of my most favorite things that I've read was Be the Change You Wish to See in the World. Gandhi said that. But if you don't know what change to make, how do you know how to make the change? And in these self-realization books, boy, does it really help. Like, it gives you a compass. It truly does. And I will, like, shout out to my favorite book, one of your favorite authors, Ryan Holiday, Obstacles the Way, helped me overcome and see so much potential in my own life, in my own brain. And I can say that if I wouldn't have read that book, light bulb would not be where it is today. So reading has truly it's changed my whole world.
It's amazing. And I know, I mean, just, because we're friends and we talk, I know that. And I always say, like, I'm picking up a book now. I always have a book around me because, my anchor book, as everyone knows, is my Bible, but all these other books, like, just help me understand so much more in life. And it's interesting. Every book I pick up is always my new favorite book. I haven't picked up a book that I'm like, oh, this is such a drag. I pick up books and it's the book I was supposed to read at the moment. It's really interesting. Even right now at the book club reading Stillness is a Key, I've had a few members tell me that I'm supposed to be reading this. I can't believe the timing of this book. So like, yeah, but I love that idea of self-realization. And the reason I wanted to, really, like, I go into that question and get your feedback is because I know I hear often, as I was in Columbus, Ohio recently doing inspections on an apartment, I flew out, I make friends everywhere I go. By the way, there's a Ryan Holiday podcast episode, The Daily Stoic, just listened to today, and it talks about it in under 3 minutes, like, you understand, like, why it's important to be kind to strangers and in the world and the effect that you have on people. And so I make friends everywhere I go. And I happen to be reading Peter Thiel's book, 0 to 1 right now. And it's phenomenal. And I'm sharing it with the people that I'm talking with. And they're like, I don't read. It's just too hard. I don't have time. And I'm thinking, you don't have time to not have time to read because of the force multiplier it is in life. So encouragement to everyone. And I am going to do a little plug here. If you are interested in, even if you could join the book club with us, which would be phenomenal, love to have you there. And if you're not quite ready to go into that book club type setting, make sure you could join the Conscious Investor Facebook group. And I have the reading schedule in there each week and just some quotes and such from the book, just so that you can follow along and see what's going along and engage in that capacity. But reading in community is powerful.
It is.
Absolutely
and
powerful.
To those who say you don't have time to read, take 5 minutes, 10 minutes off of your Facebook, social media, and I do it too. There's days I'll go by and I'm like, oh, I haven't read in, like, oh my gosh, I haven't read in a week, and so it's taking that time. It's making the conscious decision to say, I'm going to take this time to read. Put your phone down, set aside, sit in the bath, whatever it is that you need to do, and read. Because it's worth it.
Yeah, it is. It's such a game changer. Natalie, I'm so grateful for your yes to come on the podcast. And so many people have had their very first podcast episode here, and I know the courage that it takes. And I'll tell you that courage, I've been on some podcasts recently that were, top tier, and that was intimidating. Like, there are always, like, life requires courage. And so I just want to, say thank you for courageously coming on and trusting the process.
It was scary. It was fun. And I'm so glad that I did this. I am. And I look forward to coming back.
You are going to come back. You didn't know that, but yeah, you are coming back again. Oh my goodness.
Oh.
Where can everybody connect up with you? And I'm going to say, if you know somebody that is considering launching a podcast, or someone that is looking for a producer, I want to make sure that you connect them up with Lightbulb Podcast Editing, which is Natalie and her company.
Yes, yes. The best way to get in touch with me is lightbulbpodcastediting@gmail.com. And coming soon, it is not officially launched yet, but coming soon is lightbulbpodcasting.com.
All right. So exciting. That's a hallmark of a strong company in the making. I know a lot of companies that started out and like, I know some very successful companies, investor groups that still don't have a website because they just were so busy building their business and they have relationships with the people they do work with. And so it's like, I don't know, maybe someday we'll get a website, but we don't need one, so right. I love that. You have a lot of podcasts that you're editing right now. You have a lot going on. It's like, I haven't needed this podcast because I get these referrals and I do great work. So it just continues on its own.
Thank you. Thank you.
Shout out.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Natalie. And to all you amazing listeners, until next time, live big, love bigger. If you're embarrassed to answer the question, what are you reading? Or you're looking for a community to read with, the 5-week book and networking club is for you. The 5-week book and networking club helps readers of all kinds grow, learn, and connect with others in a really meaningful way. There's no commitment. Join the group book by book. If you're the person known for not finishing the books you start, or maybe you're a self-proclaimed slow reader or can't decide which book to read next, join us. I provide a reading schedule broken into 5 simple days of reading with an average of 7 pages a day. Reading is such a powerful way to expand your thinking, understanding, and skill base. And reading with the 5-week book and networking club will also build your network and affect your business. In 2021, the 5-week book and networking club completed 8 books and 40 weeks of reading and networking. Head over to julieholly.com to connect so you don't miss out on the next book.